What's up, guys? Hobo Nichol back with you with an In the Hot Seat with Orrie from Go Outside and Cook. Welcome, Orrie.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Well, let's get started. Where are you from? We'll start with that.
I'm from Bakersfield, California, which is we're in the southern tip of the Central Valley of California. So it's a little different California than what most people think about.
All right, you got to expound on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's very very rural here. So we got tons and tons of farms and ranches and stuff in the Central Valley. And thankfully for someone like me, we don't have a lot of the restrictions that you have if you go over to LA or up north. So it's kind of nice if you like burning a lot of wood up.
Right. All right. You have a real job? Or you just do YouTube videos?
Unfortunately, I do. I work for a paint manufacturing company, and I do outside sales work for them. And right. I've been with them probably 4 years now. And prior to that, I was in business for myself, and then I was in the Juniper Bay business for like 28 years, something like that.
Awesome. Family dynamic?
Huge. Big family. I have 13 kids and 20 grandkids. And so I do a lot of cooking.
Say that one more time. 13 kids?
13 kids and 20 grandkids.
Wow.
Second marriage. So, yeah.
Yeah. That happens. All right. First off, I swear I heard a dog in the background, so you will be the third person who has had a dog in every video.
Yeah. Have you seen my dogs? I got wiener dogs. I got a bunch of wiener dogs.
Right.
And they're kind of when you're trying to film a video, they're a little bit of a nemesis because they photobomb everything. And in fact, I probably shouldn't point this out, but I don't remember which video it is, but there's one, I didn't even see it till literally months after the show was published. I was going back and reviewing something on it, and sure enough, there's one right there in the background taking a hike. I was focused on the pit.
Hang on one second. Christy's cooking channel for the third time in a row is having technical difficulties viewing. So Christy, go to my channel, go to my YouTube channel, like log out, come back on, click on the whole thing, and it should work. All right, back to the show. You got to help Christy along. Her and this guy in Albuquerque always have problems.
Okay, I hear you. I'm supposed to tell you, by the way, Heavy Metal Barbecue says you got a jelly jar thing, so we got the jelly going on.
Well, cheers to you, sir.
Cheers.
So I think before I ask this question, I think I have a very unique guess. So this question may be the next half-hour answer, but cookers that you have.
Oh boy. Let's see if I can work this from the top of my head. I'll start from the little guys and work my way up. I've got a little Smoky Joe that I actually use quite a bit when it's just the wife and I. So I use a little Weber Smoky Joe. I've got a 12-inch Weber WSM that I travel a lot with when we go out RVing and stuff like that. And again, for doing small portions, I use that. There's an 18-inch WSM and a 22-inch WSM. I also have a Brinkman Trailmaster vertical offset, and there's also a Trailmaster horizontal offset. I have a 36-inch Santa Maria barbecue pit and a couple of custom-made jobs. One of them's it's a tailgater. It hooks into the hitch of your vehicle. I use that in the back of my RV sometimes too when I travel.
Gotcha.
And I did have a 7.5-foot, 30-inch deep trailer pit that I used for my competition barbecue. And that got sold. I had a sponsor who was actually custom building a new one for me. and that sponsor wound up going out of business. So I don't have a big pit again, but I'll have one in the future.
Yeah, I seen you had posted something on Facebook about that. It may have been a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I missed that pit.
I've seen you've got at least one cast iron video with the cast iron griddle. It's, I don't know, yay big.
Yeah. Yeah, the griddle, that's the mother of all skillets right there. And that was a gift from some friends that they brought it over. It really surprised me. I didn't have any expectations, but it just, he come in with that thing, and it fits so perfectly in my 22-inch kettle. It's just like having a cast iron griddle out there. It's really awesome. I cooked on it tonight. I did some teppanyaki type stuff with it.
Recording equipment. What do you use?
For my videos, my primary equipment, I use it's a DSLR. It's a Canon T2i, and it does a good job. I get some of my secondary shots using a Canon Vixia, and it does okay, but it's not real good. I have lighting issues in my kitchen area when it comes to cameras, and it's because my cabinetry, all that wood cabinetry, kind of puts off a red yellow hue, and it makes it kind of tough. The T2i is a good camera to shoot with. It's just got a little bit of a hiccup where if the card starts to get over a certain amount of video on it, it just pauses filming and it doesn't give you any warning. So, that's a little problematic. I have to make sure I dump the card and reformat the card pretty often when I'm using it. But
right.
It shoots great video. Shoots some good video.
So to get you caught up, because I know you're not watching this, Stone Mountain Barbecue's on here. He made the comment, said, Chris, this is the biggest jelly jar that he's ever seen. And I stepped off camera for just a second because this is what I'm drinking. And I told him I found a new one. So I wanted to show Jason that, but to give you a quick upside.
I got that beat. I got that one beat.
So just to give you a quick upside of who's here, we've got Phil and Florence, Christy's Cooking Channel, Ballistic Barbecue, Blind Grillin', Meathead, Barlow Barbecue, Stone Mountain Barbecue, Heavy Metal Barbecue. He's got natty ice in his jelly jar. And Texas Style Cuisine, who next week is who's going to be on the hot seat for anybody that is interested. And that's as far as I can see. If I miss somebody, I will catch up to you later. Anybody you want to say hi to, Orrie?
I'll say hi to everybody. Got quite a few folks out there watching, actually. So thanks everybody for showing up. I appreciate it.
All right. Who taught you how to cook?
Mostly me. My dad was a big influence on me, but mostly me. I started out, took an interest in cooking when I was about 9, and the first time I got onto a grill, I was 11 years old, and it was in 1977, and I've been kind of hooked since then. And and I do more than just barbecue. Barbecue is one of my favorite venues, obviously, but I dig into a lot of Italian, a lot of French cooking. Here in the Central Valley, we got a huge Latino population here, and I've been here, 30 plus years. So that's dug pretty deep into me too. A lot of influence in that. So I do a lot of different kinds of cooking, and barbecue just happens to be my strongest passion in it. So I've been doing it for a long, long time.
Right. So speaking of barbecue, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I got to do my research as the interviewer. So I've scoured your Facebook page. I've watched almost every video you have. I've reached out to people who claim they know you.
And they actually admitted that.
What's that?
They actually admitted that? They knew me?
Yeah. So, competition barbecue. On a team, have a team, something along those lines?
Have a team. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a team. I've not been on the circuit for the last 3 years. I had a career change a few years ago, and it kind of took me out of the game for a little bit. Team's still intact. We're still ready to go out there and do battle, and we'll be doing it again. I keep saying next season, but I'm not sure yet. But I'm actually pretty anxious to get back to it.
All right.
Yeah.
And is there some sort of catering that goes on?
Yeah, I do catering whenever I can. Typically, I'll feed anywhere from 20 to 200 people, and my barbecue team is also my staff when I need them for those jobs. And so yeah, we do weddings and stuff. I've got a small thing coming up pretty soon for, I think we're doing feeding 60 people at that. Yeah.
Okay, so I've got this list of questions that I came up with over the last 2 days that are either competition cooking or catering related things that popped into my head watching your videos.
Okay. Fire away,
So,
Chris.
Hobo always claims whenever I make ribs that she can't tell the difference of any rub that I put on, which I make my own rub. I use anything from, I don't know. I'm like Rich's River Smokers. I've got 10,000 different jars of crap.
Uh-huh.
What's your thoughts on that? I know you kind of have an understanding a lot of the science of cooking, at least from the way I've seen you break things down in your videos. So what's your thoughts on that?
That's actually a common thing. Pork has, you're talking about, I'm assuming like spare ribs and baby backs, right?
Right.
Okay, so pork is pretty strong tasting in itself. And so the pork and the smoke, when they kind of get along, it's gonna lay a base flavor out for you. One of probably the number one thing that makes it really hard to distinguish between rubs is the salt content. And a lot of commercial rubs especially, are way too high in salt. And so what happens when you rub those ribs where you have the right salt content on the rib, you've got a deficit in all the rest of the spices that's going to make it distinguishable. So
Yeah.
that's why I do a lot of making of my own rubs, because I really cut that salt content down, and I bring whatever flavors forward in the essence that I want to be there. And then, you can always bring some salt in later on in the cook.
Right.
To adjust your salt levels. That's not going to change whether it's early or late. And I recommend it be later anyway, because if you're not careful, you're going to overbrine those ribs. If that rub sits there too long before you cook, you'll start getting that hammy texture. And, that's another thing that kind of makes them all the same from cook to cook. So, yeah, start mixing your own rubs and get that salt content down. It'll make a huge difference.
Yeah, I've got a very good pork rub that I like. It's actually on my channel. There's nothing special to it. It doesn't have a lot of salt comparatively.
Right.
But even with that, I don't know. She always I always tell her, tell me what you like, don't like what I make, because I need that feedback. I don't need, everything's great, because that doesn't help me get better.
Yeah, that's the last thing you might. My wife is really, really good about that. She'll tell me when my cooking sucks, which isn't very often, by the way. But there are things that she doesn't like. For example, she don't like anything soft. She can't stand anything soft. And I can go either way. I can do dry, I can do soft. But sometimes I just want to soft things up. That's what I feel like. And so if I do that to her, everything tastes like the sauce. That's the way she sees it. So sometimes you can't please them.
Well, Mrs. Hobo is a no sauce girl also.
Yeah.
All right, so I have my personal opinions on this, but I'm curious of yours. Using binders like mustard, etc., for the rub, does it really actually hold more rub? Or is this one of these, you got to put Johnny Trigg ribs, have to have the blue bottle, honey, tiger sauce, and some sugar?
Yeah. I don't think it does, to be honest with you, depending on how if you bring you let your meat kind of come out of the chill a little bit, and if you throw some rub on it, unless you're just going to slap it on there and throw it on the pit, which is, you see that. And I'll tell you something, that's a mistake a lot of people make, is they get to watching these barbecue competitions on TV channels. And the reason you see that on those, TV hypes it up to make, this is the way you do great barbecue. In reality, you take a lot of shortcuts in those contests. You have a very small window of time to achieve what you've got to achieve to make those judges happy. And they don't pick your food apart based on flavor. Trust me, they're going for a specific bite and a specific texture, and they don't do well on television barbecue shows explaining that. So you'll see them slap all this stuff in there and wrap it up this way and that way, because they're trying to inject, flavor into something they don't have time to otherwise properly marinate. So you throw a rub on top of your meat, the salt's going to draw a little moisture out and it's going to bind that rub. You're going to be fine. There's nothing wrong with using binders. Sometimes they're great to throw, a little more flavor on something, but as far as rub sticking, it's usually an indicator that you're going to throw the rub on and toss it in the pit, and at that point, you're not really getting any flavor down in your meat anyway.
Gotcha. St. Louis cut ribs versus baby back. So I feel like I have a general idea of understanding of this, but I know a lot of people that probably watch my channel are newer. So if you can give kind of a difference in, if you want to call it flavor, just kind of an overall where these two stand.
Yeah. First of all, my preference in the two, I like the spares better. And the difference in the two is the baby back ribs come from the upper part. If you can imagine a cow standing sideways. So the upper part of the pig, the upper part of that pig along his backbone is where you have the loin. Okay. If it was wild game, they'd call it backstrap. And that loin is attached to the baby back. So the baby back comes directly off the spine, and that's why it's got that real hard curve, right? And so when you cut that loin roast out, you've got baby back ribs. If you leave it in there and you cut that up, you've got loin pork chops, is what you've got. And that's most of the meat that's on a baby back, is that wider pork meat that you see in a center cut loin pork chop. When you get down into the spare ribs, you're getting a little closer to the pork belly down below. And so now you're starting to get, dangerously close to the bacon meat that we all just love so much. And so it's that darker pork, it's a fattier pork, and to me, it's a more flavorful and way more juicy. The loin meat, it can be dry, so you got to be careful with it. And the plus side of baby backs, and I actually have this in my baby back video, is you can do a really hot and fast sear type cook with them like you would a chop, and get away with it. I mean, here in the Central Valley, that's really common. With the Latinos, they'll throw those baby backs up there on a high heat, open pit, Santa Maria type thing, and just sear them up, and they're delicious. They're really good that way. But that slow smoked rib, I like the spares a lot better.
All right. So on the same topic, I've heard that chilies, etc., has ruined ribs for the American population because 90-some% of people think ribs should fall off the bone. Everybody has their personal opinion. I know your competition answer is what it's going to be, but what's your personal opinion on ribs? My
personal opinion, the way ribs, they should fall off the bone, but they shouldn't fall off just because you pick the bone up. So competition ribs are not something that I would feed somebody. If they came to dinner at my house, I would be feeding them a rib that you can pick up and you can put in your mouth that doesn't require teeth to clean that bone. And I want to see a wet bone come out of those ribs. I want there to still be a lot of moisture content. So if I start seeing dry bones sticking out, I start getting a little bit sad. Yeah.
So you have to understand, number one, I have terrible penmanship. Number two, when I wrote all these questions, it was in the dark down here. I didn't have this bright light, which is up here shining, making me look less pretty than I possibly could be.
The same syndrome.
Big Lou BBQ just showed up because I'm not going to type on here and say hi. All right. So my question on here says butter/blue bottle. So I'm assuming that this goes back to the ribs on the pre-wrap thing that I've seen everybody and their brother on every TV show do.
Right.
So what's your, I guess, I'm not going to ask you to give away your secrets, but if you're willing to share something, get us to that point where.
Are you talking in regard to making ribs that we're going to eat and enjoy, or are we talking about competition ribs?
Well, let me take that question back because I have another question on that. Do you like your competition food?
It's okay, but again, it's not my top-notch stuff. For two reasons. Number one, because I'm trying to meet the expectations of what those judges are looking for, and again, only a third of that is flavor. But I do like it. I like my competition food, but when I cook to eat, it's just over the top better.
So I guess I'll ask this question. How do you think we've gotten to the point where ribs taste like candy? Okay, so I've never cooked competition, but I've read enough threads on Barbecue Brethren, etc. type websites where it seems that the cooking population absolutely hates cooking this way. And I can grab. So the first time I ever had Blues Hog barbecue sauce, I took a bite of it with chicken nuggets just because I'd gotten the bottle and wanted to try it. And I looked at Mrs. Hobo and I said, "Good God, this I can't do more than one bite of this because it's just too overpowering." Now I've gotten to the point where I enjoy it, but it's still a lot. But how do we get from what I think this started out in the beginning to today, do you think?
You mean as far as all the sugars and stuff that's in the
Right.
sauces?
I mean, I get trying to step it to the next level, but there has to be a point where we dump a sugarcane factory on something.
Right. Well, it's barbecue is very regional, and I think the popularity of the barbecue shows, the competition shows, and all that kind of stuff has caused people to get in their kitchens all excited and just go crazy, like just throwing everything together. And they put a lot of sugar in. Now I know when you get in some regions they've traditionally been really sweet sauces, but then you get in other regions and it's really more of a vinegar base, and then you go to other regions and it's more of a mustard base. But those weren't the bases that you really saw highlighted on the television shows. And as far as like competitions go, I don't think they really rely so much on that. I mean, if it's a KCBS competition, let's put it that way, I think you probably have as much chance of winning with or without sauce in those competitions. I know that my son is a certified barbecue judge. He went through the classes, and we sent him through that because I wanted to know, what exactly are these judges looking for? And the focus really is more on the bite. For example, they'll take a bite out of the rib. Of course, they're looking for that perfect bite. And then when it gets in the mouth, they push the meat up against their palate, and they see how it breaks up. And it's all about texture. You're trying to hit that mark on texture. They're not allowed to judge if it's too salty, not salty enough, because that can be anybody's thing. So it's really not as much about the flavor in those competitions as we want to believe it is. It is part of it. If you overpower something too much, then you'll get nailed for it. But I think people just went crazy with all that. I can tell you that out here in the West where I'm at, the sweet barbecue sauce thing is not very well received out here at all. You got to have a lot of spice layers in it, a little more vinegar, good balance on it. So, yeah, I just blame it on that. The TV shows.
Okay. So ribs so we're not. I'm getting out of the competition part, at least for this part. We get a ribs and smoke. Okay, so me personally, I usually do. I kind of have two viewpoints. Number one, I use about 2 hours for the right number, but I kind of go with the what color I'm looking for type thing, and then I wrap.
Okay.
I do that, and for the last probably 10 sets of ribs that I've done, it's put the Blue Bottle Parquet on there, some turbinado sugar, honey if I have it, and that's about and I've done the tiger sauce just for funsies. I pull it out. I have no idea about the Parquet ever being there that I can tell.
Right.
The sugar, yes, it's a little bit sweeter, but my rub in general is not a highly sweet thing. And the honey, I'm not a honey fan. I just did it because I saw it on TV. Scientifically, we wrap this rib. What are we? Is it a steaming issue that we're creating here?
Yeah, you're pushing it to tender. Putting all that extra stuff in there. I've played with all that myself. I've done a lot of it. I've taken to competitions with me and whatnot. So I don't put a whole lot. If I'm going to wrap anymore, I don't put a whole lot of stuff in there. I might throw you know, maybe something to give a little more spice or whatever in there. But yeah, scientifically, you know, what you're really doing is you're trapping the moisture in, and you're letting that moisture continue to tenderize the meat without the allowing the outside of the meat to get too dried out. You know, on bigger pieces of meat, you want to develop a really nice bark on the outside, but you really don't want to do too much of that on your ribs. You know, there's not enough thickness there for it. So what you wind up doing is you wind up making jerky on the outside of your ribs, waiting for the inside to get tender. It's not as much of a problem on the baby back as it is on the spares. That darker meat in the pork takes a little while longer to get tender. So that's the purpose of it. Regarding the blue bottle, you're talking about the margarine. It's not there for flavor at all. That's another thing that I think they misrepresented, but. And maybe they did it on purpose. Maybe our buddy Mr. Trigg did it on purpose. But that's a common trick. If you're cooking for a competition barbecue, I mentioned that only a third of your score is in the flavor. You also have a third in your presentation, okay? And that presentation on ribs, your rubs will go black if you cook them long enough to get them tender. So you have to find a way to make that happen. So you put that margarine on there, and what that does is that puts a oil-like coating over your rib, and it protects it from the oncoming smoke and stuff. Helps keep that color from darkening faster. Allows you to cook longer in the open.
Best barbecue sides, in your opinion?
Barbecue sides? Oh, I'm simple when it comes to sides. I like beans, all kinds of different ways. Boy, that's a tough call. There's just a lot of good stuff out there. I like coleslaw with pork. Sometimes I like to make up some homemade mac and cheese. But definitely beans, potatoes.
Turbinado sugar. Is that in your wheelhouse or no?
Nah.
No, because you don't like it, or no, because it's just not there yet?
No, it's another sugar. You know, I hadn't played a whole lot with it, but yeah, I've kind of dialed in. I've dialed in a lot of things in my processes that I kind of work with, and I may go down that path. I probably will. You know, if it gets more wheels, I'm gonna jump in there on it. But I kind of roll my own way on a lot of this stuff. You know,
right.
I get some kind of personal something out of figuring this stuff out. And you know, if I'm out in the backyard playing with things, yeah, you know, I will. But when I'm cooking, I've got a lot of stuff just kind of dialed in where I want it to be. And you know, I'm not that I'm restricted to doing everything just one way, because I'm not. I play with different kinds of regional barbecue and different flavor profiles and stuff like that. There's you know, more than one way to get things done. But yeah, that's just not an area I've really gone down that path a whole lot of.
All right, I'm going to change subjects on you and get to the catering world. I don't know. Are you on Barbecue Brethren by chance?
Yeah, I hadn't actually visited it for quite a while, but I'm definitely there. Yeah.
So if you read the catering subsection, whatever it's called on there, somebody says, hey, I want to become a caterer. And the first thing that everybody tells them is get insurance, get the health department, and the other 5 most important things. And I get that, and I don't want to go down that route, because I think that's a pretty basic thing that most people should understand.
Yeah, they really need to understand that. They really need to understand that, because I tell you, you're feeding food to people, and you might be a great cook, and you might think you got it all figured out. And maybe you do. Maybe you've done your homework. But you know, it's like me. I'm going to go out and cook, and I'm going to feed 200 people. If 200 people get sick, that's a pretty good liability. You have to be very careful with that. The number one piece of advice I have my food manager license, and you know, that's a credential you get. You've got to go through classes for it. You've got to go take a test for it. and it is everything about foodborne illness you'll ever want to know, and most of the stuff you never want to know about it. When you get that, you have a much higher understanding of foodborne illness and everything about it. And you're able to basically look at something and know exactly what it's poisoned with. That education and those credentials are there for a reason. I back them up. Absolutely.
All right. So beyond those things, I've heard one thing very prevalently is everybody and their brother will tell you your food's great when it's free. The first time they got to pay for it, half those people, whatever the number is going to say, yeah, you're not worth the price of admission.
I've never had that complaint.
So my question is for, I think a lot of people that get in the barbecue world think, hey, what I'm doing is great because my wife, girlfriend, family, whatever says I'm the bee's knees, but they're probably not. So me personally, I'm in Canton, Ohio, and if any of the 4 big barbecue companies in town want to challenge me to a throwdown, I would gladly do it. But I'm guessing that most people probably aren't as good as they think they are because people have blown smoke up their butt. But my point being, so I decide I'm going to go get the license, I'm going to get the insurance, I'm going to go get the safe serve, or I'm sure every state has their different things. From beginning to end, what is somebody looking at from a ballpark investment just to start?
Well, the investment, other than your cookers, isn't really all that huge, to be honest with you. Your health permit is typically pretty inexpensive. The health permit is really more about you having the facilities that are going to comply with the law where you're at. Where I'm at, it's pretty strict. You have to prepare your food in a commercial kitchen. The commercial kitchen itself has to be health certified. It's got to have, this fire protection system, all this stuff in it. A lot of places will have commercial kitchens that rent by the hour.
Right.
So you don't necessarily have to provide that for yourself. You can rent that to prep your food for your catering. So it's really in the cookers. It's in a little bit of time. The one thing that I would warn people about before trying to take a plunge like that is you need to cook for a large group of people. So maybe a big family gathering or something. And you need to do it within a window of time that's realistic for feeding that amount of people, because you can be actually a really great cook. You can be, your barbecue can be top notch, but when you're catering, you don't get to give the attention to your food that you give when you have that one roast out in the backyard that you're paying all this attention to. You're going back and forth on things, and you've got fatiguing long runs of preparation that you've got to do. Typically when you're feeding on a catered deal, you're not really serving your top notch, your best, because it's not even possible. You know your processes, limit what you offer in your catering, so it's something that you do over and over and over again, so you can get it tuned in that way. I think that's the biggest mistake people make when they get into catering, is they just don't understand the amount of work that's got to go into it to get good food in front of people. And you want to make sure that you've got some kind of staff on hand. It's quite a bit of work, and it's not something that a single person or a couple can just do.
So speaking of, I'm trying to figure out how to ask this question, because you kind of hit on it. Why do you think that successful barbecue restaurants, now, I've never been to Texas, I've never been to Franklin's or any of the, top 10 down there for what they say. I'm talking your average barbecue place in anywhere USA. Why do you think? Two things. Number one, I've never had something that I can't make better myself thus far, and I'm no king by any means. And number two, why do you think all the sides in general are almost not even thought about? It's like they mail it in. And maybe your experiences in California are different than mine.
No, it's that way here too. We've got some good barbecue joints here where I'm at. some pretty decent ones. They serve really good food. Do I cook better than they do? Absolutely. I'm not. You know, it's. But the thing is not everybody does. Not everybody cooks. Period. And when they do, they don't. You know, they're not that. They're not. I'm out back 5 days a week cooking something. But not everybody is. You know, we're in a day of drive-throughs. You know, so you know, they hit a barbecue joint where somebody took the time that week to cook the meat and do everything. And then, you know, it's good food. They get into that. They don't have it often. It's over the top. It's great. You know, I think there's a lot of that. And once that happens, a phenomenon, people start talking and people get drawn toward it. You know, so, you know, I think that really attributes to it. I think, and I think about that in the sense of marketing. If I was going to open my own place, I would probably push it right down that same path as far as business. I wouldn't be worried about getting, you know, the people that know how to do the cooking. I'd want to get the ones that don't.
Right.
Because they're all going to love your food then.
So there is a young lady named Caitlin Griswold on here claiming that you are her grandfather. Do you
I am her grandfather.
confirm or deny this?
I will not deny it.
Anything you want to say to her?
I love you, little girl. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it.
All right, so I'm going to change topics here. I've asked the group if they have any questions that they want. I typed it in there, but I don't know if everybody reads the live chat. So if anybody's got a question they want me to ask Orrie, start typing it in the live chat now. Christy on the from Christy's cooking channel wants to know the favorite meat for you to grill or smoke.
Well, to me, grilling and smoking is two different processes. So, my favorite thing to grill is probably going to be a good ribeye steak, a nice fatty ribeye steak, and I'm going to grill it hot and fast so the flame just eats it alive. As far as smoking goes, it's hard to pull a preference out because I cook so many different kinds of meat. But if I had to pull, I would just say anything pork when it comes to slow smoking.
Gotcha. We've got 26 people in here, which I think is the current record for people watching at one time. So you, sir, are now the king.
The king, my friend.
All right. Christy also asked, what's your least favorite thing to cook? And I'm assuming that's on the grill / smoker, which, well, I'd break it down like you did the first one.
That's a hard call because I typically don't really cook anything I don't. I would have to say hot dogs. Yeah. Hot dogs, dude.
I'm assuming this person may be one of your subscribers called Stall-U-Rated. Asks, Orrie, any saving grace for dealing with a propane grill?
No. You know what? I say that tongue in cheek. Now, if you're getting outside and you're cooking, I got your back. But I'm known to have that tongue in cheek humor when it comes to the gas grills. And but I tell you what, if that's what you got and that's what you're cooking with, I got your back. I can't do a whole lot video wise as far as the processes on that. All I can do is try to be a bad influence on you and get you off that sucker and onto some charcoal, buddy.
I lost where his question was. It was from Baum Grillin', but I don't know what. There it is. Is steak sauce ever acceptable?
Absolutely. It's just as acceptable, in my opinion, as barbecue sauce is. I wouldn't cook steak sauce on a steak for nothing. And when they say that a steak cooked the right way doesn't need sauce, they're absolutely right. It'll make its own drippings that you can sop things up in. But at the same time, a little sauce on the side for you to hit it with every now and then, I think that's cool.
All right. So this is something I plan on doing on my channel here soon. Why do you think YouTube, and I'm saying YouTube, it's not really YouTube in particular. It's about everything that you come across. Makes barbecue seem like it's so complicated when it's really pretty simple.
I don't know why. I don't know why they do that. It actually is pretty simple. I mean, you can, if you want to really produce some super good stuff, it can be a little complicated. But I think probably the biggest reason for most failed cooks are overthinking. So I don't know why it gets pushed that way. I think probably goes back to that we had this the last few years, this big popular thing with barbecue again, and so you have all these different angles on it. Everybody coming out and making it complicated, but it's really not complicated. It's primitive, in fact.
Do you have a son named Cody?
I do.
So I don't think he understands this, but he doesn't know that you're not actually watching this. But he says,
Right.
"I'm his son. Where's my shout out, old man?"
you just gave yourself a shout out, son. Congrats.
So in the basics of barbecue, so I'll give you my perspective. You give me yours. I think if you keep your temperature in your whatever you're cooking on between 200 and 300 degrees, you're probably going to be able to manage something decent.
Yeah, spot on right there. Spot on. And if we're talking about barbecue, you hit those temps. You don't have to have your pit dialed right at a specific number. It's your product is going to be a little different when it cooks 75 degrees hotter. So if you're at 250, 225, 250 to 300, you're going to be fine. The higher temps, you want to keep your eye on the moisture and stuff like that. But you adjust. That's the whole thing. That's what I actually get out of it. Is you got to manage the pit. You got to manage your fire and get to cook. And but yeah, in that temperature range, you're probably going to be okay. You take things into consideration, like how much sugar's in whatever I got on my meat. There's a little specifics, but the meat's going to be fine.
So Greg at Ballistic Barbecue had posted this earlier, and Christy said, "Hey, ask Greg's question." And I thought it was with somebody in the group, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But it says, "Harris Ranch, are you close to it? And is the restaurant worth a visit?"
It is worth a visit. I'm close to it. I'm within an hour of it. Their beef is phenomenal. If you're where you can go visit it, when you get there, just before you go inside the restaurant, they've got this old beat up, rusty looking, big, huge Santa Maria pit outside, and they take these big prime ribs, the full roast out there, and these are like prime, and they'll usually have 5 or 6 roasts sitting out there, kind of cool smoking. So they've got it way above, just a little smolder of wood down there, just throwing a little smoke on the outside of that before they take it inside. And that prime rib is outstanding. And if you want to, you can also buy some meat to take with you, cook yourself. I would recommend getting a hold of some of their baseball sirloin. You think this is sirloin, and you think you was eating a fillet. It's just awesome.
Meathead wants to know perfect temperature for internal temperature on brisket.
The perfect temperature, what I typically do is I want to get mine up above 200 degrees, right around 205, and I'll pull it off at that point. The main thing is you want to give it the proper rest. Is more important than anything. The biggest mistake people make on brisket is they get the knife into it way too early, and that flat particularly will really dry out. And not only that, but the point don't render well enough if you get into it too early. It gets really gristly. So, I'll also often recommend sometimes, depending on the grade of the meat you're cooking, if it separate that point out later on and keep that point on the pit a little bit longer as you pull the flat off. But I'd say about 205, let it ride there. Don't worry if it climbs up to, up to 210, but try to keep it, in that range. Don't pull it off as soon as it gets there. Let it sit there. In other words, don't get scared if it goes up above that a little bit. center the meat on that. So pull it off, rest it for, I would say no less than an hour. I mean, a good long rest is good for a brisket.
Wow, the questions are coming in faster. Well, questions and comments are coming in faster than I can keep up. Charlie at Charlie's Smoking Barbecue, which me and him need to talk because me and him have a throwdown we need to figure out. And most of you guys that are watching this are in the YouTube group, and I need your guys' help because we never got a good answer. Have you ever wrapped a pork butt in butcher paper?
I've never done a pork butt that way. That's a excellent question because now you got my wheels turning. I've cooked pork butt all the way through in the open. I have used an oil coating method that I use on them that works really well. And a lot of times I throw them in the pan. Sometimes I cover them, with oil. Sometimes I don't. But I like to capture that juice later on in the cook because I want to reintroduce that juice back into it. But I've actually not done that. I may have to try that. That'd be an interesting cook.
So we're up to 30. Ballistic Barbecue's going to eat dinner. I'm assuming he's another Cali boy like yourself. And Keith Baytag says, "Hey, chef." I'm assuming he's talking to you because I know he's not talking to me. All right. 3 channels you watch, 1 big, 1 small, and 1 you think should be bigger than they currently are.
Good question. I actually, believe it or not, don't watch a lot of channels. I really try to keep a lot of focus on I call them followers, not just subscribers, because I have a pretty good following of people that are not subscribers. So, my channel, I really put the focus on them. But there are some that I watch. I think on big channels. Can I mention 2?
You can mention as many as you like. I just throw it out there.
But it's going to be the famous Troy there. But I really love watching Daddy Cook, still over there at Daddy Cook. That guy does some pretty cool stuff. And when he's off on his contract jobs abroad, he does what he can do to improvise, and that's just tremendous art to me. I love that. So, medium channel.
Well, it'll be small channel. Somebody that I don't know. So I went through this with Barlow and I went through this with Lou, and I don't know that I have a right answer because depending on how many followers the person I asked the question to has.
See, I consider mine a small channel, and so
if I was asking Russ Jones right now, who's got 100,000 subscribers, he'd probably go, "Oh, a small channel? You mean like somebody with 50,000 subscribers?"
Exactly. Small channels, I'm going to say. Well, I like Lass's Food and Barbecue. He's broadcasting out of Sweden there, and fun to watch. He's trying stuff from other areas of the world, and he's got to improvise because he don't have access to everything. And I think that's cool. He's got good cooking knowledge, and Onion Smoke Shack. That guy. I get the feeling like I'm looking at a true American when I watch that guy, and I just love that. He seems like he's a patriot.
Any channels you can think of that you watch it, you see? So I'll give you the perfect example. I watched the one video I commented on you last night or the night before, I can't remember. And I believe my comment was, how in the F does this video not have more views? And it was, I don't know, a year old. So, and I'm going off of, I watched probably 20 of your videos last night, was you explain to me how you're going to cook it. You explain to me the science of what's going on while you cook it. You had great camera work, etc. But at the end of it, I go, he's got 770. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't 1,000 plus that I expected.
Yeah. I get in trouble for that. I have a tendency to just start talking. And when I get to talking about cooking, I like to do it, so I do it. And that video was a, my channel started, I didn't start my channel to be a channel that would have subscribers and all that kind of stuff on it. To be honest with you, I started it just messing around, and maybe it would be a place I'd put a few videos to answer questions that maybe my kids or family and friends ask me a lot. And when I tried to produce my first video, I hated it. I got in front of the camera and I was falling all over myself. I was so unnatural. I still struggle with that today. And so then it became a personal challenge. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to beat this thing. And I'm going to get comfortable working in front of this camera. And so my channel has been all about that. And all of a sudden, after about a year, just one at a time, here comes these subscribers and people making comments. That was one of my earlier videos. And truth be known, I could probably take that video and break it down, different elements of it, and produce 4 or 5 different meaningful videos that people would probably comment a lot. I think it was too much in one video, is what I think. But I do get criticism sometimes for over-explaining what the process is. But I keep it in there because I get a lot more people who want to know that. It's like there's a ton of brisket videos all over the internet, and they're all telling us to do this, and do it for this long, put this on it, but nobody tells us what's happening. And to me, if people are informed with what's really going on inside the food that they're cooking, they can make it their own. They become good cooks in themselves. They don't have to rely, once you understand that process, that in my videos, to teach that to a certain following of people that want it.
Right. All right. I can't remember whose channel it was on. It was either on Lassie's channel or there's another guy that I can't probably pull up here real quick, but it's like 018 something Alien Barbecue. I'm going to try to pull it up here while I'm talking to you. But 0815 Barbecue, I think was the channel. Another channel from not in the United States. So I watched this guy make enchiladas last night or the night before. So it's within the last 3 days. He cooked the pork butt, put down the tortilla, butter, put down the pork butt, cheese, rolled it up, put cheese on top of it, threw it in the oven. And I sat there and I said, I can see this working, but who the hell ever comes up with peanut butter and pork butt?
Well, that's where you're getting the original stuff. See, and peanut butter or peanuts in general, in a lot of parts of the world, are very much a savory element that goes along with meats and stuff like that. Especially when you get into a lot of Oriental cooking and stuff like that, you'll see it there real common. So, it actually is a savory element, and it actually does work. I mean, it absolutely does work. But we have to get out of that mindset of what we think this is barbecue and this is it. You got to expand and start realizing, there are certain elements that go together that have salt and chocolate. Whoever, 20 years ago you said that, people would have been going, oh God, are you kidding? But yeah, that totally works together.
I'm going to ask you this just because I don't want to lose it in the comments. Charlie's Smoking Barbecue wants to know, what's better, unwrapped brisket, foil wrapped brisket, or wrapped in butcher paper brisket?
Oh boy, that's a good question, because everybody's got their own opinion on that. I personally, if you can pull that brisket all the way through, completely unwrapped, and retain the moisture and all the texture that it should be, that's probably the best way. You're getting that open pit flavor all the way through the cook. Secondarily would probably be the wrapped brisket. That's going to protect the outside and everything, help retain that moisture and get through the stall. It's really all about that stall. When you hit that 135 mark, 137, it just doesn't want to go forward. Now you're drying your meat out. You just got to get past that. I've seen people that put it in paper, push past the stall and they bring it right back out again. So, anytime you can complete on the open, it's great. I do like the panning method. I use it a lot myself. It does help get through the stall, especially if you got a tight deadline, you got to meet dinner guests coming over and stuff. It's a great way to get your brisket to tender, retain all the juices and stuff, and be able to hit a timeline that you want to hit. So, yeah, I think you're the king if you can go an open cook all the way through.
So I'm going to piggyback on his question because it's something that I was kind of curious about. I've read people, so I've not cooked a lot of briskets. The first one, matter of factly, I trimmed to everything I've ever seen online. It was the most perfect brisket. I threw it in my Humphreys Down East Beast, and somehow so this is a vertical smoker. Somehow that slam latch on where the charcoal sets got opened up in the middle of the night.
Oh.
I know it wasn't me. I don't know if a dog came by, smelled food, and a paw hit it. I got burn marks up the front of the smoker, and I got out there at 6 a.m. and I had literally a charcoal biscuit.
Yeah, that would make me cry like a little baby right there if that happened.
So I marched my butt right back to Restaurant Depot the next morning, got me another brisket, cooked it, thought, it's not bad. I've cooked another one since then. It's not bad, but I've seen people post on different forums where they say, my brisket turned out like pot roast. And these are guys that have done more than 3 like me. And my question to you is what does that mean in the real world? What did they do wrong?
Well, that's an interesting question. I actually had my first troll recently who was all over. I actually had to finally block the guy because he was going after, other viewers who left comments. And that was, he was accusing me of making pot roast out of my brisket. And, if you don't cook it right, you will, it's true. You can pretty much make a pot roast out of brisket. When I pan a brisket, it's been in the open smoke for a long, long time. We're talking, this brisket is cooked to completion as far as is being completely cooked through. And it's been out there and taken on as much smoke as you can get to take on. And now I'm at a point where I want to get that thing to that tender mark and get it off of there. And so I'll pan for that. Sometimes I'll add a little mop in there to make sure that because it's been on the open so long, it may not have a whole lot to render, to kind of steam the environment up a little bit. So I'll add a little bit of mop in there. You rub your brisket right and you cook it out in the open for as long as it takes and you have the patience with it, you can absolutely get it into a pan or into a wrap and get it tender and not have it taste like pot roast. But it is beef. It's beef. It's a beef roast, and it's going to have that beef flavor.
Right.
And if you're not after that, go get your pork butt. It's not going to taste like a seared steak.
I really wish I didn't have such crappy handwriting here. All right. Back to the competition thing. What's the enjoyable aspect of it for you?
Competing and showing off. I'll be straight with that. I like to. When it comes to my cooking, I love to show off, and competitions are a great place to do it. You've got a bunch of people coming in there. They're excited. They want to see your pick. They want to see what you're doing. They want to ask you questions, and that's I love talking about barbecue. So that's my favorite thing, and I love to compete. And it doesn't bother me if I lose or whatever. Obviously you want to win and you want to go in there and bring it on, and I always do. But at the end of the day, it's that whole camaraderie, the environment, and the competition. I just love competing, and so it's hard to describe the ride you get out of the whole thing.
So the people that I see on TV, and I'm going to name a few names. I don't know whether you've come across these people. I know personally you're friends with Harry Sue on Facebook, but
Yeah.
your Harry Sue's, Myron Mixon's, the guys that have typically been on TV in general.
They were Harry Sue was one of the competitors on the first season of Barbecue Pit Masters when it first came out, and that was when they were doing the format of following them around the competitions. And Harry Sue was kind of used in that first season as almost a comical element at first. But he showed up with these little WSNs and he was whooping some butt. And I can tell you firsthand, I've cooked contests with Harry. He is that good. He wins contests on them little WSNs, but he's also one of the nicest guys you can meet for being a competitor. The first competition I cooked, I dove in head first. I went into the pro circuit right off the top because I just do that. And I met Harry at a contest prior to the one I was entered into. And he's like, well, you should cook these contests first because there's a lot of elements that you're going to have to learn. And it's just not been my style. So I get in there with the big boys. And my wife builds the blind boxes for the turn-ins. And that's a 30 score. And she had never built one. She had an idea of what she was doing, but she'd never built one. And she asked Harry a few questions, and he sat there in his camp while he was preparing his. Keep in mind, we're competition at this point. But he taught her how to build that blind box, all the way to the T. And I can tell you, all of my scores, if I had a fail out there or a failure or whatever, my presentation scores were always right there on top. I mean, right on top because of those boxes. So, I've gotten to cook against a few of those guys that you've seen on the shows, and they're they're a lot of fun, but they're not who you see on TV. I can tell you that.
I'm going to jump off there just so I don't forget this because I've already got 2 wrote down and my hand's getting tired. Phil in Florence wants to know, do you ever burn your arms reaching in or across? I'm beginning a tattoo sleeve on my arms.
Yeah, occasionally. I used to do a lot more than I do now. You kind of get in. It's just like using a knife in the kitchen. When you start learning, you cut yourself a little bit, but after a while, you learn to move around. I think my biggest nemesis is I like to run around barefoot. So maybe moving a chimney around or something. It's like whoa, that's it, But yeah, I occasionally do, but not as much as I used to.
One of the videos I watched you last night, you were wearing flip-flops.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I'm just, so I've got 2 things. The flip-flop thing doesn't bother me other than if you burn your foot, it's on you. But the other thing is the lack of gloves. And I watch guys reach over and they've touched every piece of meat and then they've touched everything in the kitchen. They might have washed their hands. I don't know, but I never saw any cutaway from that. But I was laughing last night because I actually noticed that.
Yeah, it's your kitchen habits are they are what they are when people are filming. I mean, I'm guilty of that sometimes. I'm pretty self-conscious about working. So you'll notice in most of my videos, I've got an apparatus that I'm making my rub in, in. And a lot of times, you might see me handle a shaker or whatever, but that's something that I made rub and threw it in real quick,
Right.
I use gloves most of the time, and I'm like you. I have seen that where everything gets touched and everything else gets touched, and it does kind of creep you out a little bit. It's like you don't know what people's habits are. I know with me, it's a constant do this and go back behind myself and clean. Do this and go back and before I was good at it, it was my wife that was doing that. She was right behind me. When I'm at competition, there's no time for it, so that's what she does. She gets behind me, and as I move from one to the next, she's just constantly sanitizing. It's a constant thing.
So Mrs. Hobo is what I call my sprinkle fairy. So if she's home when I'm cooking, she does the seasoning. If not, I just put a glove on the bottle, and then I don't have to worry about it.
There you go.
All right, so I contemplated for 45 seconds whether to ask this question or not. Meathead wants to know, and he's apparently Phil in Florence thinks he's drunk. Have you ever stuck an axe in your foot while wearing flip-flops?
Have I ever what?
Have you have you ever stuck an axe in your foot while wearing flip-flops? I'm going to assume the answer is no.
Have another one, buddy.
Make sure I didn't miss something here. All right. Texas Style Cuisine wants to know if you've won any awards for, I'm assuming, the competition barbecue.
I've not won any big ribbons or big trophies in the competition barbecues. About the time that I pulled, I actually, not that I didn't turn barbecue out that wouldn't win, but you have those little tough break things. I think the best turn-in, and don't get me wrong, I turned in some serious failures, okay? There's a lot of pressure in those things, and you have to cook them to get good at them. It's not something that you're going to get out of what you do in the backyard. But my best turn-in was an absolute winner, and unfortunately, the way the contest was, they had a shortage of judges. It was a first-year contest in this particular place. It was a big contest, a lot of money involved, and a lot of the people within the community that hosted the contest that donated a lot of money, they were brought in as what they called celebrity judges. So they weren't trained on what to score you on, and they were going for the taste. So the stuff that I had nailed it with in that particular contest was just a heartbreaker, because we really worked hard to nail that one, and to find out that a third of the judge field, and the way they're scoring is, you have 6 judges at table. Whoever judges you the lowest, the other 5 judges adopt that score. So it was confusing to everybody in the contest. I mean, it's just a weird deal, but no, I don't have no big, huge trophies or anything like that. Cooked against a lot of big people, and I beat them in categories, so which is always fun. You know, when you're cooking against a champion like that, that's it. You know, they're on that circuit, and it's what they do for a living, and you beat them in different categories. That's a pretty awesome thing.
Right. All right. Charlie's Smoking Barbecue wants to know what meat's best for competition, Wagyu or prime?
I'm going to say prime on that one. I don't, you know, I know a lot of guys who will use the Wagyu when they go into the competitions. I've seen a lot of it myself firsthand. I don't see them all winning. You know, I see a lot of choice and primes that win those contests. A Wagyu cook is something that's a little bit different than the other things. I guess if that's all you cook, and if you want to go spend $200-300 on a brisket, have fun. But yeah, I think prime's probably better.
So I know when we watch Barbecue Pitmasters, whatever, you know, there's always a $10,000 prize or a $5,000 prize on a typical. So I understand that you've got grand champion, but I'm just talking an individual meat. So on brisket, what is the typical prize purse if you get first place in brisket?
If you get first place, okay, it depends on the contest, but those numbers that you see in those shows are old numbers. The prizes have actually gone up quite a bit. So, you know, the last contest I cooked in, I think the overall purse in the contest was like 60 grand or something like that. So, but I'd say probably the average out of the 4, you know, each category. So if you get top in category A, you know, you may be looking at anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 in that category. And of course, if you do well in the categories, that scores you for the overall, and the overall could be a $10,000 to a $30,000 check.
Well, no, I think, you know, I'm going back a couple of years in here, but it was, I think Myron Mixon had a Wagyu brisket, and Big Mo Carson, I think, I can't remember if it was him or somebody else, said, I'm not spending the money on a Wagyu brisket to basically, I'm not going to spend $1,000 to win $1,000. That's the dumbest thing you've ever thought of.
That's exactly right too. And I don't know that it gives you enough of an edge, to be honest. I mean, I really don't. Big Mo, good guy. I cooked against Big Mo.
So would you say most of the guys that you see on TV, they've amplified their personality for TV? Like, I've always heard Myron Mixon is a really nice guy, but when he comes across on TV, he looks like a dick.
Well, actually, TV amplifies their personalities. What happens is they shoot, and they shoot, and they shoot, and they shoot all day long. And then they go through there, and they pull out these little pieces of the puzzle, and they put them all in a row like it happened. So, I mean, literally, you can see where for example, Myron, you know, he said something, and then he said this really derogatory thing, and then somebody's all surprised and on her face. All that happened over 8 hours. We were literally taking just pieces of things and putting this character together. And then eventually they start to fall into that character that the producers mold for them. So yeah, it's so that's why I said, you know, the people you see on TV are not the people that you get to meet in person. It's completely different.
I don't know whether to take this question seriously or not, but I'm going to ask it because I don't know who this person is. But Sue Marie asked, quick question. I don't know if you celebrate Veterans Day, but will you be doing a video for Veterans Day? Some troops aren't very good at barbecue.
That's a good question. I celebrate the heck out of Veterans Day. I'm a diehard patriot. I love America, and I love our troops and our young men that are out there serving our country. I celebrate Veterans Day. So, you know, I usually when those holidays come around, I'll go onto my Facebook and I'll ask my followers, what are you cooking? Show me what you're doing. You know, I'm encouraging them to get out there and do that. My son, who's I think watching this tonight, is stationed over here in Georgia. He's in the Army, and but that's a, you know, I'll tell you what I'll do since you brought that up. I will make a note. I will do a special Veterans Day cook. I'll come up with something really special for that, and we'll put it on the channel there.
That's awesome.
It's a great idea. I love it. Thank you.
Do you know somebody named Ralph Griswold?
That would be my son and fellow competition cooker.
What is your least favorite thing about competition barbecue?
My least? Why are you?
This is from Ralph, not me.
My least favorite thing about competition barbecue is the judging format. Absolutely, the scoring system. Let me be more specific. I don't like the scoring system. I hate the scoring system. So that's my least favorite. But that's KCBS.
All right, I'm going to give people here. I've got one last question to ask that I ask everybody, and that's how you ended up on the channel, because somebody recommended you. Well, give me 3 people you want in the hot seat. And whilst I'm doing that, if anybody else has a question off to the chat, post it in the chat.
Okay, 3 people that I'd like to see in the hot seat. One of them, you said is going to be here next week, so that's Texas style. I definitely want to see him here. If you can work it out, because there's a big time difference, I would love to see Lass at Lass's Food and Barbecue. I don't know if that's doable or not, because he's all the way over there. But I would also love to see Onion Smoke Shack. I'd like to see that guy.
Onion Smoke Shack. I think that's the second, possibly the third time you've been recommended on there. And I'm going to be honest with everybody here. I'm trying to work up a calendar to try to make this work out, but this is what I've struggled with is I need to get to a point where I can get a little bit further ahead. So when did we decide? Do you remember when we decided what day we were going to do it on? Was it earlier this week?
I think it was. Yeah.
So basically I've had 2 days to
Yeah, you
Study
got to
every
do
video
some
this
work.
guy's made. Stalk him on Facebook after conning him into accepting me as a friend, and then having other people say, ask this, do you know this, blah, 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 blah. I'm trying to get, so my goal this weekend is to create a calendar. So next week we've got Texas style cuisine. I've already got GQ barbecue lined up sometime. It's probably going to be in November. Me and him have worked things out. Our schedules just both suck. And so what I'm trying to do is get this lined out so I can kind of have a path forward of seeing, okay, for the next, if I could get the next 6 months out, that'd be great. But if I can get the next month out to where I could go, okay, I need to start focusing on these 3 people's videos so I can get an idea of what to ask, what I'm seeing, what they do. Like,
Right.
I've been subscribed to you for a little bit now, but going back through the prior library is what I find the value in. And a lot of the questions have came from is, you know, I saw you did this. Why'd you do this? Or, wow,
Right.
if you watch a guy's newest video, you know, Corby just put out, Corby Q just put out a video on a burger. And if it's the only burger you watched, you'd sit there and go, this guy likes really hot stuff because he had jalapeno cheese, 3 kinds of flaming hot cheese, and a bunch of peppers. But if you go back through things, you see that's not necessarily just his wheelhouse.
Right. Right.
So that's what I try to do is 2 things with this channel. One, I think when we make YouTube videos that are cooking wise, you don't get a lot of the connection of understanding who the person is. That's why I start every one of these out with 5 to 10. Tell me about your life so people can go, hey, this guy's got, I mean, hell, you've got 17 kids and 20 grandkids. I hope you've figured out what causes that by now.
I'm retired from that now.
But I mean, that's one of those things that as a, where you sit there and you go, wow, I have this deeper connection with this guy. Then what I try to do is get to what is this person's wheelhouse. You are very interesting to ask for the science of cooking because you seem to, there's a lot of guys that can sit there and go, I wrap it in foil with parquet, brown sugar, and tiger sauce because Johnny Trigg said to.
Right.
Well, that doesn't help me any.
Yeah.
I'm just mimicking what I've been told.
Well, my channel is about inspiring people to do it and giving them confidence to do it with and giving them the information so they understand it. So that's my wheelhouse.
So before we go, Charlie Smoking Barbecue, who I think now is on his 5th question, he's really loving you apparently. Maybe a man crush, I'm not sure.
Love you back, Charlie. You're the man.
Have you cooked with Malcolm Reed from Killer Hogs Barbecue? And if so, is he as nice as he is on camera?
He is nice. I don't like to know the guy. I've cooked against him and been in his presence. And yeah, he is a very nice guy, very approachable.
So I'll ask this question as a follow-up. Everything I've ever read online says that the competition barbecue community, for lack of better words, is very, in general, very sociable, willing to help each other out. Now, granted, if it's crunch time, no, the guy's probably not going to help you out. But if you show up with your Weber kettle the first day and you look lost as hell, somebody's going to help you out.
Yeah,
is that pretty much true?
That was my experience when I first jumped into it. You know, like I said, with Harry Sue, helping my wife build that first blind box, I had a whole crew of people visit me the first night of the competition when you're putting your big meats on. They were coming into camp, and it very much, you know, every now and then you run across an arrogant team. You know, we've had that experience. But for the most part, they get in there and help you. It's more of a camaraderie thing. It's just like what you see, you know, I see this with all of these YouTube channels that are, you know, like in the Cook's Forum and whatnot, where everybody kind of helps each other out to find success. And competition barbecue, it's very much that way. Like I said, the best part of it's the camaraderie and the tongue-in-cheek competition.
Stall You Rated wants to know, where was all this cooking talent when you were in Woodland, Orrie?
I was cooking in Woodland too, Stall You Rated. Yeah, it was just mostly wild game that I was chasing when I lived up there. So, he, that's Steve Reed out of Woodland. I went to high school with him way back in the day.
Gotcha. All right, I'm gonna make sure I didn't miss anything here. Pretty sure I've got everything covered. All right, folks. I'm gonna give Orrie, as long as he wants to talk, anything he wants to say here, and then after that, we're gonna sign off. Orrie, don't hang up or click off after I say we've signed off, because I want to talk to you for a minute off camera. But anything you want, you got the floor.
I just want to say thank you to everybody for showing up here for this tonight. I really do appreciate the support. I want to say thank you to all of my followers and all of my subscribers to my channel and on the Facebook. I appreciate all of your support. It was really unexpected for my crappy little videos to get this much popularity, and I'm just so thankful for it. And I hope what I'm doing is something that inspires you to go out inside and cook. So with that, I'll say good night, everybody. Thank you.
All righty, thanks for showing up, everybody. We will see you next Thursday. I think it's going to be the same time. We're still trying to figure that out. It's going to either be 8:30 Eastern time or 9. See you guys later. Bye.